According to the 2009 article, The Impacts and Opportunities of Oil Palm in Southeast Asia, What We Know and What Do We Need to Know, by Sheil D., in the last 20 years, over 3.5 million hectares of Indonesian and Malaysian forest have been destroyed to make way for palm oil. As a result, almost 80% of orangutan habitats have disappeared in the last 20 years. Palm oil is a type of edible vegetable oil that is derived from the palm fruit grown on the African oil palm tree. Though it is a small ingredient in the U.S. diet, more than half of all packaged products Americans consume contain palm oil, such as lipsticks, soaps, detergents, and even ice cream. As college students, we depend on many of the products that contain palm oil, such as Nutella, frozen pizza, and instant noodles. By consuming such products, we have unknowingly contributed to all the negative impacts the palm oil industry has on the environment. Hello, I'm Janel Cruz, and after intensive research, I'm comfortable sharing with you today why you shouldn't buy products that list palm oil as an ingredient due to the abuses of the palm oil industry, organizations that are working to bring these abuses to an end, and how you can help do so as well simply from your home or dorm. The oil palm industry has been connected to abuses such as deforestation, habitat degradation, animal cruelty, and indigenous rights abuses. The future potential impacts of oil palm expansion on tropical forest and biodiversity are especially a conservation concern. According to Cole L.D. and Wilkov D.S. in the 2008 article, Is Oil Palm Agriculture Really Destroying Tropical Biodiversity?, oil palm cultivation increased from 3.6 million in 1961 to 13.2 million in 2006. Today, oil palm is grown in 43 countries, also taking over nearly one-tenth of the world's permanent cropland. An area the equivalent of 300 football fields of rainforest is cleared each hour to make way for oil palm plantations. Deforestation for palm production contributes significantly to climate change. The clearing of the forest often results in the burning of invaluable timber and remaining forest undergrowth. This leads to the emission of huge quantities of smoke into the atmosphere and makes Indonesia the third highest greenhouse gas emitter in the world. Indonesia and Malaysia are two of the largest oil palm producing countries and also contain 11% of the world's remaining rainforest, home to numerous endangered species. Oil palm plantations result in a significant reduction in biodiversity if plantations replace natural forest, secondary forest, agroforest, or even degraded forest or scrubby unplanted areas. Endangered species such as orangutan, Sumatran elephant, and Sumatran tiger are especially threatened and driven toward extinction as their habitat is converted into oil palm plantations. Members of these species are often captured or killed when vegetation is cleared to make way for new plantations. Elephants are considered to pose risks to oil palm plantations because they often destroy plantations and feed on the oil-rich palm nuts. Orangutans have also been known to become violent around oil palm plantations when their food source is threatened, and they too are often killed. Tigers are also killed if they are considered to pose a threat to plantation workers. All of these species are vulnerable to illegal wildlife poachers when forested areas are opened up to establish oil palm plantations. Birds are also affected, with conversion of forest plantations resulting in a reduction in species richness of at least 60%, especially affecting threatened forest-dependent birds. The industry impacts the indigenous people negatively as well. Often, the government's main interest is the economy of the country, so they allow corporations to take the land that the indigenous people owned and lived on. Also, the industry is linked to human rights violations such as child labor in remote areas in Indonesia and Malaysia. The children carry large loads of heavy fruit, weed fields, and spend hours bent over collecting fruit from the plantation's floor. Heat exhaustion, cuts, and bruises from climbing thorny oil palms occur often. The children also barely receive any pay. These plantations are destroying the rainforest land that the local people depend on. Often, communities have no choice but to become plantation workers. Faced with poor and degrading working conditions, they barely make enough income to survive and support their families. According to the World Wildlife Fund, if the palm oil industry adopted better management practices, it could provide more benefits than negative cost. By applying strict production criteria to the different stages of palm oil manufacturing, oil palm plantations can continue to operate without the expense to rainforest and biodiversity. Several NGOs have campaigned against plantations on the basis of threats posed to endangered species. Considering that many species that once called the oil palm plantations home are protected by Indonesian and Malaysian law, new management guidelines and regulations are needed that protect crucial habitats for such species and develop a clear understanding that plantation managers are responsible for the continued existence of protected species in their areas in order to preserve them. In the 2016 article, Growth and Survival of Trees Planted in Oil Palm Plantation, Implications for Restoration of Biodiversity by Yamada T., it is stated that Malaysia has several imperiled biodiversity hotspots and had the highest number of IUCN Red List threatened species among the top 8 palm oil producing countries. Malaysia could decrease the negative effects of oil palm plantations on biodiversity by banning deforestation of forests for new plantations. The WWF is one example of organization that works to achieve this using various strategies. Some may argue that the multiple uses of byproducts can increase profits and reduce waste as a result of oil palm plantations. With a combination of reuse, recycling, using solid and liquid wastes, and appropriate energy management, the CPO industry can achieve almost zero pollution discharge, making it an environmentally friendly industry. However, though Malaysia is in advance of this than is Indonesia, this recycle and reuse idea varies from company to company due to the lack of strict guidelines. This is still just an idea, not quite popular due to the lack of knowledge of such abuses made by these companies, and the easy solution to such with some enforcement. In conclusion, there are many ways you can help bring an end to the negative impacts of palm oil. You can join organizations such as the Union of Concerned Scientists in calling on companies to adopt strong sourcing policies for palm oil and the other major drivers of deforestation, and work with their suppliers to increase standards. Also, when shopping, you can buy from producers who are willing to commit to deforestation-free and peat-free policies, or buy alternative products that don't use conflict palm oil. The following in this chart are some products that contain palm oil, such as Sour Patch Kids and Oreos. Finally, you can use your voice to speak out. If you voice a concern about deforestation for palm oil development and help to pressure companies, manufacturers, and governments to take serious action, companies are more likely to address their ties to unsustainable palm oil as a result of seeing that it is an issue that customers care about, and one that could therefore impact their profit margin should they choose not to act. Thank you, and I'm Janel Cruz.